Dear students and subscribers, welcome to Offbeat Gyan. This video is on Salman Rushdie's novel Midnight's Children. The video will provide a plot overview and a critical summary of this very important novel. It will also cover brief character sketches and tell you the story of Midnight's Children. Midnight's Children is prescribed for the PG English 4th semester students under the post-colonialism paper. According to Rushdie, the plot of Midnight's Children began taking shape in 1975 when he had received a £700 advance for his first novel Grimace and he was travelling throughout India on a shoestring budget. It was finally completed in 1981 and it was published by Penguin. It won the Booker in 1981 and the Special Booker of Bookers in 1993. This novel has a very wide canvas that depicts life in pre- and post-independence India. So, it has the elements of post-colonialism, post-modernism and magical realism. Post-colonialism because it explains the transition of India from a British colony to independent India, and it also focuses attention on the partition. Postmodern elements are indicated by the presence of metafiction and the close relation between the story of the novel and historical and political events. And the novel keeps moving back and forth between the past and the present. And the novelist keeps making us aware of the process of writing or narrating the story. The story is in the form of a narration by the protagonist Saleem Sinai to his devoted lover Padma. And Padma is the one who prevents Saleem Sinai from straying away from the account that he has to provide of his life. Then magical realism. Magical realism depicts reality by using elements of fantasy. So it blends magic and ordinary everyday reality. And magical realism is present in Midnight's Children in abundance. There are supernatural or otherworldly elements which are located in a very ordinary setting. So these are the three important elements of Midnight's Children. There are post-colonial elements, there are postmodern elements, and there is magical realism. So Salman Rushdie wanted to write a novel about his childhood in Bombay, and the novel is divided into 3 books. He has chosen people from his family and his friends who have become characters in the novel. The protagonist, Saleem Sinai, was born on the midnight of August 15, 1947 in Bombay. And Salman Rushdie has made the boy and the nation identical twins. Their destinies are intertwined. So, Saleem Sinai, the narrator of the novel, who is telling the story to Padma, takes us back to 1915, 32 years before he was born, and he takes us to the beautiful and pristine Kashmir Valley, which was yet untouched by militancy and the presence of the army. The novel begins by telling us about Dr. Adam Aziz, Saleem Sinai's grandfather. Dr. Adam Aziz has returned to Kashmir after completing 5 years of medical training in Heidelberg in Germany. His family had a gem business, and it was with money from the gem business that he was able to go to Germany and pursue his medical education and training. When he left, he was a callow youth, and he has returned as a trained doctor. In the meantime, his father has had a stroke and is confined to a chair at home. There has been a role reversal, and his parda-clad mother, who used to have a very secluded life, is now forced to go out of the house and take care of the gem business. When Adam Aziz returns, he finds that the two people who have been closest to him, one is his mother and the other is Tai, the ageless boatman, his friend. Both of them have a very contemptuous attitude towards him. Tai is an important presence in the young Dr. Aziz's life. When Aziz was young, Tai was the one who used to tell him a lot of stories. He used to tell him the stories about the Dal and Nagin lakes. He used to tell him the stories about where the best lotus roots were available. But when Adam Aziz returns as a doctor, Tai treats him with anger and contempt. Anyway, when the novel begins, Adam Aziz is praying and he hits his large nose on the tussocky grass and the nose starts bleeding. The most remarkable feature of Dr. Adam Aziz is his nose. Nose is called Nak in Hindi and Tai calls him Naku. Tai used to call him Naku. The nose is the most predominant feature of Adam Aziz's face. He was a very tall man, around 6 feet 2, and he had blue eyes and he had a huge nose. So one day, Tai, plying his shikara or houseboat, arrives near Dr. Adam Aziz's house and informs him that Ghani, the landowner, is calling for him. His daughter is sick and he wants Adam Aziz to look at his daughter's medical problem. So Tai and Adam Aziz, they go to Ghani's house. And when Adam Aziz arrives there, he finds that he will not be able to see his patient. He can see her only through a perforated sheet. The perforated sheet, that is the first chapter of book 1. Let me tell you one thing, the novel is divided into 3 books. So book 1, the first chapter, perforated sheet. So Dr. Adam Aziz can see only the part which is sick through a hole in a sheet. When he is taken to the room, he finds 2 muscular women bodyguards guarding the patient. He cannot see her face. He can only see the injured part. And he treats her for 3 years without ever having seen her face. So each time it is a different part of the body that has an ailment, and each time the doctor can see the patient's that particular part of the body through a hole in a sheet. Anyway, on the day that the First World War comes to an end, that is in 1918, Dr. Adam Aziz gets to see his patient, her face, for the first time. She is called NASEEM, and over the period of 3 years that he has been treating her, he has imagined meeting her, he has imagined seeing her. So on that particular day, he gets to see her face and they have been falling in love with each other. So he goes and he approaches NASEEM's father and he is immediately given permission to marry her. In the meantime, both his parents have passed away and Dr. Adam Aziz has acquired a job in Agra. So Dr. Adam Aziz and NASEEM get married and they move to Agra. Once they settle down in Agra, Adam Aziz becomes close to a man called Mia Abdullah. Mia Abdullah was somebody who was anti-partition, and that was probably the reason why he was eventually assassinated. Adam and NASEEM have 3 daughters, Alia, Mumtaz and Emerald. They also have 2 sons, Mustafa and Hanif. So Adam grows closer to Mia Abdullah after losing his belief in religion. And after Mia Abdullah is assassinated, Adam hides Abdullah's frightened assistant Nadir Khan. This step of Adam Aziz is opposed by his wife, but he does not listen and Nadir Khan is given protection and refuge in their house in Agra. Now, while Nadir Khan lives in the basement of Adam Aziz's house, he falls in love with Mumtaz and the two get married. But after 2 years of marriage, Adam Aziz realizes that Mumtaz is still a virgin. They have been married, but they have not had a relationship. And Nadir Khan is immediately sent away from there because Mumtaz's sister, Emerald, she is somebody who is about to marry Major Zulfikar. Major Zulfikar is an officer in the Pakistani army and he is going to marry Emerald. So, Emerald says that she will reveal the hideout of Nadir Khan to her would-be, that is Major Zulfikar. So, Nadir Khan escapes from there and Mumtaz is abandoned by her husband. And then Mumtaz agrees to marry Ahmed Sinai. Ahmed Sinai was actually supposed to marry Mumtaz's sister Alia, but now Ahmed Sinai gets married to Mumtaz. And soon after that, Mumtaz changes her name to Amina. So, Mumtaz becomes Amina after getting married to Ahmed Sinai. And husband and wife, they move from Agra to Delhi. She is pregnant and she goes to meet a fortune teller. And this fortune teller, he delivers a very strange prophecy about her yet to be born child. He tells her that her boy will never be older or younger than his country. And Mumtaz is slightly worried. Mumtaz or Amina is slightly worried about this prophecy. Soon after that, what happens is Ahmed has a problem. His factory is burnt down by a terrorist organization and both Ahmed and Amina, they move to Bombay. After arriving in Bombay, they arrive there and they buy a house from an Englishman, William Methwold. This particular house is located on top of a hill and Wee Willie Winkie is a poor man who lives there who is making money by entertaining the families of Methwold's estate. Now this Wee Willie Winkie is married to Vanita and she is also pregnant. When Ahmed and Amina arrive in Bombay, they start living in William Methwold's house and in William Methwold's house there is another couple, Wee Willie Winkie and Vanita, and Vanita is also pregnant. But Vanita is not pregnant with Wee Willie Winkie's child. Vanita had an illicit affair with the Englishman, William Methwold. So she is also carrying a child. And Amina and Vanita both go into labor on the same day at exactly the same time, that is the midnight of August 15, 1947. And both of them deliver sons. Now enters another character, Mary Pereira. Mary Pereira was a midwife at this particular nursing home where both Amina and Vanita had gone for their delivery. Mary Pereira is in love with a socialist radical revolutionary, Joseph da Costa. So, she wants Joseph da Costa to be proud of her and that is why she switches the babies. She exchanges the babies. What she does is, Wee Willie Winkie and Vanita's baby, or rather Vanita and William Methwold's baby, is given to Amina and Ahmed Sinai, and Amina and Ahmed Sinai's child is given to Wee Willie Winkie and Vanita. So the rich child goes to the poor household and the poor child is transferred to the rich household by Mary Pereira. Over a period of time, Mary Pereira develops a sense of guilt. She feels very bad about what she has done and so she becomes the nanny or the nurse of Saleem. Now, both births happen at the particular moment when India got its independence from the British. So, huge amount of significance is attached to the birth of Saleem. Young Saleem also has a very large nose. His nose, again like his grandfather's nose, is the most prominent feature of his face. He has blue eyes like his grandfather, and after some time, the family has another child, his mischievous sister, who is nicknamed the brass monkey. And Saleem is often ridiculed by everyone for his large nose. So what he does is he hides in the washing chest in the bathroom. One day, while he was hiding there, he saw his mother removing her clothes and sitting down on the toilet. And AMINA discovers him and she is very angry with him. So she punishes Saleem by telling him to be silent for that entire day. Saleem is unable to speak. He has been punished by his mother. For the first time in his life, he starts hearing voices in his head. And that is when he gets the realization that he has the power of telepathy. He has the ability to enter into other people's thoughts. Later on, what happens is Saleem begins to hear the thoughts of all the other children who were born like him during the first hour of Indian independence. There are around 1001 midnight's children, but this number is reduced to around 581 by the time these children arrive at their 10th birthday. And all these children have been endowed with magical powers. Their magical powers are different. Everybody doesn't have the same magical power. For example, the boy with whom Saleem was interchanged or exchanged, that is Shiva, that boy, his power lies in his powerful knees. He is very good at combat. He is very good at fighting. One day what happens? Saleem loses a portion of his finger in an accident and he is immediately taken to the hospital and blood transfusion is required. And his parents immediately rush to give him blood. But when the testing is done, it is proven that Saleem could in no possible way be their biological son. So, Adam, on hearing this, becomes very angry and becomes very agitated. So, shortly after this, Saleem is sent away to live with his uncle Hanif and Aunt Pia for a short while. Then Saleem comes back home and Hanif commits suicide. While the family is mourning the death of Hanif, Mary confesses that she was responsible for switching Saleem and Shiva. By this time, Ahmed has become an alcoholic. Life has become very depressing for him and he becomes very violent with AMINA. So, AMINA takes her children, Saleem and Brass Monkey, with her to Pakistan. She goes there and she lives with her sister Emerald. Emerald is married to Zulfikar, who is a military officer in the Pakistani army. Now in Pakistan, Saleem watches Emerald's husband, General Zulfikar, who begins a coup against the Pakistani government. And this brings in a period of military rule in Pakistan. 4 years later, Ahmed has a heart attack and AMINA and the children, they come back to Bombay. This is the period when India declares war against China. And Saleem, who till now has never had the sense of smell because of his congested nose, undergoes a operation. As a result, he loses his telepathic powers. He cannot read other people's minds. That power is lost to him. And what happens is, he acquires a very powerful sense of smell. He can smell anything and everything. The entire family moves back to Pakistan after India loses the war to China. His younger sister, Brass Monkey, now becomes Jamila Singer. She becomes a very famous singer in Pakistan. The entire family is in a great deal of trouble. They have lost their money, and the war is declared between India and Pakistan, and the whole family dies except for Jamila and Saleem. During the air raids, Saleem is hit on the head by his grandfather's silver spittoon, and when he is hit on his head, he loses his memory. He forgets everything about himself. So after he loses his memory, he is reduced to a useless creature in the sense that he does not remember anything of his past. He does not remember anything about himself. Soon he is recruited into the army because of his superior sense of smell. And he doesn't know how he joined the army, but in the meantime he had fallen in love with his sister Jamila, and he has a doubt that probably Jamila was responsible for his conscription into the Pakistani army. While he is in the army, he takes part in suppressing the revolution in Bangladesh. When he goes to Bangladesh and fights there, he sees the terrible atrocities which are perpetrated on the people by the Pakistani army. He is shocked and he runs away into the jungle with his fellow soldiers. He finds himself in the Sundarbans, in the thick forests of the Sundarbans. And when he comes there, he gets back his memory which he had lost in Pakistan. He leaves the jungle and he meets Parvati the witch. She is one of the Midnight's children. Like Saleem, she was also born on the midnight of August 15, 1947. And it is Parvati who reminds him about his name, about his unique significance, and she helps him to go back to India. He lives with Parvati in a magician's locality, which is actually a ghetto. There is also a snake charmer here called Picture Singh. Parvati is very disappointed that Saleem will not marry her. So she has an affair with Shiva. Shiva was the one who had been exchanged with Saleem by Mary Pereira. Shiva has now become a very famous military hero. Parvati and Shiva's relationship doesn't reach anywhere. He refuses to marry her and she is already pregnant. She comes back to the magician's ghetto very disillusioned and disappointed. And there, all the other residents in the slum, they actually treat Parvati with discontent and they treat her as an untouchable. Finally, Saleem agrees to marry her. Then again, the canvas shifts to the political scenario in India in the 1970s. India under Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India and she had declared emergency in 1975 and the forced sterilization campaign had started. Shortly after Parvati gives birth to her son, the government decimates the magician's ghetto. Parvati dies and Shiva manages to capture Saleem, and Saleem is taken to a sterilization camp. There, Saleem reveals the name of all the Midnight's children who are still alive. One by one, all of them are caught up. All of them are caught, brought to the camp, and they are all forcibly sterilized. So, through this process, all the enemies of the Prime Minister have been destroyed, have been decimated. Later on, what happens is Indira Gandhi declares the elections which she loses. Towards the end of the novel, all the Midnight's children, including Saleem, are set free, and Saleem begins searching for Parvati's son, Adam, who has been living with Picture Singh, the magician and the snake charmer. So, Parvati's son Adam, Saleem and Picture Singh take a trip to Bombay. And Picture Singh is going to Bombay because he wants to challenge a man who claims that he is the greatest snake charmer. While in Bombay, Saleem eats some chutney, and that chutney reminds him of the chutney that used to be made by his one-time ayah and nurse, Mary. So, he hunts for that chutney factory, which is owned by Mary, and he finds Padma standing there at the gate. With this meeting, the story completes itself. The story has come to an end. The historical account is over and Saleem decides to marry Padma, who has been his ardent listener, who has also prevented him from diverting from the main story. On his 31st birthday, which falls on the 31st anniversary of India's independence, Saleem declares that he will die. He will actually break up into millions of pieces of dust. And that is how this novel comes to an end. Thank you.